Can you take more than one air layer from a plant? That's a question I often get. Let's see, how many air layers can we take of this plant? I'm standing here next to a very large maple. This maple, it's a big trunk. You can't see the trunk. You can just see this huge sacrifice branch. Yes, a sacrifice branch. I'm going to chop this off next year. We are now at the end of summer, so air layers will be next year. But in this video, you're in luck. I'm going to show you how many air layers we can take from one branch like this. Normally I would say chop it off. It's not worth the effort of taking an air layer. When do you take an air layer? You take an air layer if you have an interesting species, a very big trunk, or very interesting trunk line. This has no interesting trunk line. It's not a very interesting species, and the trunk is not all that thick either. We can't change the species. The trunk is not going to get a lot thicker. So what we're going to do? Wire these out. 1, 2, 3. I've done two things over the last 10 minutes. I've wired out 15 or 16 branches for air layering in spring, and I dropped my camera on top of the tree, and now a branch is missing. Anyway, let's see how this develops. Right, since the last video a couple of things have happened, and most notably this tree has fallen over twice already this growing season. So normally I'd use a little pot for securing substrate, but this time, no, I'm going to go straight to baggies and regular substrate. I've got my knife. I'm going to look for a couple of places where I think that I can actually make a useful air layer, like this one. This is a nice little shape, very fat base, and I could air layer right here to create a nice little start of bonsai. I'm going to go for maybe 5, 6, 7, but it will be enough to show to you. It is no problem doing air layers in series on the same tree, multiple ones at the same time. I'm not going to film the whole thing, I'm just going to show you what I do. You know how to air layer, right? Now here I hope to get roots on this one, and the middle one. So I'm going to cut right through all of them, right at this spot. So now I am debarking the top one, the middle one, and the lower one. Here of course it is just one cut all around, but here you need to make the cut for each and every one to ensure rooting of all of them. So what you can tell, there's one here and there's one there for 1, 2, 3, 4 trees. 1 layer, 2 layers, 3 layers, 4 layers, 5 layers, 6 layer sites. What I'm now going to do, I have a whole bunch of pieces of plastic which I'll just wrap around the area that I want to layer, like so, and attach it with a piece of wire. Poorly prepared. I do have it here though, just like this. Nice and tight, so it can't slide and can't open. This I can now fill with substrate. This you leave in place for 6 to 8 weeks, and then you should see roots. In between you can water every once in a while when you see there's no more condensation on the inside. I'm going to do this for all of the air layers and then be right back. Alright, I didn't think this through. Here is a very clear sign that rooting is starting to take place. But look, there's lots and lots of air layers further down. And I don't see any roots yet. If I now trim here, these will fill. So now I have to wait until I get roots there and there and there before I can separate this one. That was not such a great idea. But that being said, these are rooting. Now let's get these to root. The effect of a couple of days. Now the bottom one, there's very clearly visible roots here. The top one has roots here and there. This one I don't see any roots. This one I don't see any roots. Here on top I see a couple of roots, but this is 2 layer sites. And here the same thing, this is 3 layer sites. So I think I'm going to leave it for another 1 or 2 days. And then I'm going to open up this one. I'm going to check what this one is doing. I might separate this one. And I'll open this one to see whether there's roots, and maybe I can separate the whole thing and reduce the tree back to this. So clearly these smaller layers are not strong enough to take off. Here there's good roots developing and the bag is starting to get too small. Little solution, just add a pot over it. Old pot, just going to toss it anyway. It is the last week of September and here I see a root starting to form as well on this air layer. It is now really time to get these off if I want to root them before winter. So I'm just going to clip every single one of them off and we'll see whether they have roots. Just know that there's not a real need to remove them. For me it is more I want to move the plant around. I want to repot it over winter and then it's very difficult with a long whip on it. And on top of that I don't really need them. I just wanted to show that you can take multiple air layers from a single plant in a season. You can tell it has taken longer than you'd normally expect, but now I'm going to open each and every one up and have a look, see what the roots have done. It's a very small one. I don't know if it had roots. Nothing visible on the outside, that's always a bad sign. This has actually not made any roots, look. So this air layer has just calloused over, but has not rooted at all. Top one has roots. Bottom one was not even layered, I just cut it too high. But this one is the first one that has roots. Now I'm going to prune it back quite considerably because I don't think we have a lot of growing left for the season and I just wanted to now focus on setting it up in the pot and not wiggle around. Remove all the garbage from it and you just take it, plant it and see it again next season. Just put this in a corner of your garden, water it and leave it alone for the rest of the season. All you need to do. Yeah, look at that nice roots there. Now getting this substrate out without breaking everything off. Now look at how these roots have developed. It's just started to circle the pot that I planted it in. And I'm going to actually have a hard time getting this one off without damaging that one root. This I might just clip off as a separate plant. Let's see how the roots are connected. Are they all around the trunk? Or they're just... So now for this double trunk, if I look at it, there's roots coming out here. And there's roots coming out here, but not all that many. But if I just look at it as a double trunk, that could also work. I could just leave this. However, I said I wanted to have a cascade, right? Then I don't need this. So I'm going to take this off and see whether it has enough roots to sustain itself. Just here at the base, give it a quick clip. Now this as a cascade would work. And this one has enough roots to sustain itself. And as said, this one I want to grow as a cascade, but I might as well just grow it on first a little bit. So for potting up, I'm going to shorten this stump a little bit, and then I'm just going to pot it up and leave it alone for the rest of the season to grow and establish itself. Actually, no need to get it caught in the wind. Plant it up. I'm really curious what the root ball looks like. Look at that. Gorgeous roots. So here on this side it has not rooted all that evenly. So that's a good reason for leaving this on longer, so that this part can start growing and push roots a little bit more, even though I only want to develop this on the long term. All of this here at the bottom I can just clip off, but I'll need my big loppers for that. Not thinking too much about the roots, because I am going to do a proper repot later. Just wanted to get in there, be somewhat stable, and grow for the rest of the season, establish itself, and next year I'll look at the roots. And this is the one that I separated a couple of weeks ago. You can see the roots are starting to pop through the bottom of the pot, so this has well established itself. Then we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 new plants from one season air layering on one individual extending trunk. The original trunk, the extension of the trunk, one side branch and another side branch, and this one. It's not great, I do admit, but it's good enough for backyard tinkering, let's put it that way. And this is a great way to get more trees, and you don't need to wait the whole season for one to root and then the next season to do the next, as long as you make sure there's a good branch on every single section that you want to root. Now it is, as said, last weekend of September. These are going to go out of the wind. They're going to be protected against being blown over. I'm going to water them. Just leave them alone for the rest of the season. Over winter I'm going to make sure they're not going to get minus 15, minus 20. But in general these should be okay, and in early spring I'll take them out of the pot, look at the roots, pot them up properly, and then decide what I'll do with them. Thank you for watching. This was Jelle, growing bonsai, and see you next time.